So I want to give you a story of how I robbed a bank out here in Yonkers, New York. Now this was a in-store type of branch, meaning that this particular bank was inside of a supermarket right on Central Ave, Yonkers, New York. So I want to give you a little backstory before I get into the story of how I took some money from this bank. So growing up in the 80s, I never seen that we needed for anything. I just knew that it's things we didn't have and it's things that I wanted. But I just knew my mom was working hard. It was 7 of us. I was like number 6 on the line as far as the kids and whatnot. So I knew she had a lot of work to do and whatnot. So I was never, like the selfish type to always felt that I needed some things or I needed certain things from you in order to, have happiness in my life. So I always thought to myself, when I get older, I'm going to find me a job and I'm going to be able to get everything that I want to get, whatever it is that was at that moment. So as I was growing up, I was always able to find, good jobs. Finding a good job was fairly easy for me once I figured out what the game was. But this one particular job was a bank. And in this bank, I had to work in. It was several duties that I had to perform. One was being a teller. The other was to walk around inside this supermarket and to actually try to get people to open up checking on savings accounts. I also elevated up to where I was selling mutual funds. I didn't sell stocks and bonds or anything like that, but I was able to sell mutual funds. I didn't get licensed to sell stocks and bonds, but working in the bank was kind of funny because I was around so much money, and in my mind, I was always thinking, how could I get away with taking some money from out this bank? I don't know why this stuff was on my brain. I don't know, maybe it was a childhood, not having much growing up, but that was always on my mind. I worked at this bank for like 2 years. So there was this one particular incident that actually started this snowball effect in me, borrowing money from this particular bank. So I'm at a different branch because they needed help for the day, and I'm doing some transactions. This lady, she's doing multiple transactions. She's cashing a check, she's making deposits, she's making withdrawals, she's doing a bunch of different things. So I'm handling all her transactions, but the last thing I forgot to do was to give her her check. I actually cashed the check, but I didn't give her her money from the check. I did give her money because she made withdrawals. She made several withdrawals and deposits, so she was getting all these transactions, but I forgot to give her her paycheck, and I didn't notice that till after she had left. So after she had left, I noticed that I didn't give her a paycheck. It was like $10.80 and some change, and I tell you, the devil was in me because I was not trying to tell nobody. I don't even think that was a pay week for me, so I was probably broke. So I was like, I seen an opportunity. So I took that exact change, whatever her check was, $1,080.14, whatever that was, down to the penny. I removed that from the drawer and I stuck that in my sock because I knew that you have to balance your drawer. The drawer has to match. For every check that you bring through your terminal, for every cash that goes out, for every cash that comes in, that drawer, the computer needs to match, balance, 0, 0. Can't even be a penny off. It has to match, balance. So I knew that. So me knowing how to add and subtract relatively quickly, I was able to balance out the books. And that particular time I took out the money. Now, that was dead wrong. Thinking about it in retrospect, God damn, that was dead wrong what I did to this lady. But in my mindset at that time, I seen it as a come up, white lady coming in, she could do it, she could afford it. That's in my mind. Like, it wouldn't hurt her regardless of the person's situation and whatnot. I just felt that it wouldn't hurt that person. So I took the money, and she came back at the end of the day, and I knew she was going to come back. And this is why I was always calm, even with dealing with police and things of that nature, violence in the street and whatnot. I was always a calm individual, man, because I always see the outcome. So it's never for me to get upset or out of control because I need to see the whole entire picture. I need to think calmly so I know what moves I need to make, right? So this lady comes back, she's talking to me like, you didn't give me my money and this, that, and the third. So we're going back and forth, and I'm like, I did. This is the transactions, yada, yada. I'm proving to her that I gave it to her. So I said, hold on. So then we're going to go get the manager. So the manager comes, and she's explaining everything to the manager. So the manager goes through. I knew in my mind nothing was going to happen because I balanced the books out right after she had left. So he comes, he's going through all the transactions, going through all the checks, he's going through all my drawers, pull all the money out, count everything individually. He did it twice with him and the assistant manager. They did it twice. They seen that the books was balanced. I said, you could check the cameras. I gave her the money. So if they would have checked the cameras, they would have only seen transactions going back and forth. I don't think they would have caught the fact that I did not give her the money because where I was positioned at, where the teller was, the camera couldn't see what I was doing, especially on this side because I was by the wall. The way the camera was, you couldn't see this side of me because the wall was right here. So all my transactions was like this down below. So you couldn't see what I was doing. So all you see was just transactions and whatnot. whatnot. So he told the lady, listen, books balance. I'm sorry, I can't, there's nothing I can do. So she had left. And that was the first incident that, that I did wrongfully on some bullshit, taking this lady's paycheck that could have been all her money. I don't even remember what she had in her account at that time. It was so long ago, man. It was just like 99, 2000, like 20 years ago, you know what I'm saying? So after that, I go back to my branch and the devil is still in me. He's whispering ways of how I can get money out of this bank. So the way I was getting the money out from the bank, right, was through money orders, right? So I figured out, working through the bank, you understand what the process is, right? So I figured out that they do end of the day transactions when it comes to these money orders, so they could get the report of all the money orders that was printed out for the day, so they could balance. Everything has to balance, right? So what I would do first thing in the morning, I don't want nobody, you know what I'm saying, to go out there doing this dumb, stupid shit, you know what I'm saying? Because this shit got me fucked up. It got me jammed up. I had to pay all this shit back, and I had to go to jail, restitution, community service. You don't even want to put yourself in that situation, right? And it took me 10 years to even bounce back to find a fucking job, right? So don't do this, right? I was taking money orders. So we used to have to be to work at 8 o'clock. I used to get there always early, 7:30, come in with the managers. The managers go straight to where the safe is so they can count the money. I will come in, they will go and count the money, because you always had to have $200,000 to divvy it up for all the drawers. You need to have $200,000 cash. For this particular branch, you needed to make sure it was $200,000 cash at all times. So what I used to do was go to the other room where the money order machine was, and I used to print out $2,000. It was $1,000 limit. So 2 money orders. I was print out 2 money orders at a time, making crazy noise because it's printing out. I'm coughing or banging, whatever it is I'm doing to try to muffle that print noise sound. That's what I was doing. So then I used to do a midday closeout. So when they do an end of the day closeout, they don't see my transaction. So when I did my midday, it'd just cancel out everything that I did from that first morning, and anything after me would only be printed out at the end of the day report, right? So I was doing that. I don't know for how long, man. I was doing that for a minute. I was just busting down money orders, going to different check cashing places, passing them out to the friends and whatnot, just busting a bunch of money orders down. Shit was crazy, yo. But then what got me caught up is, we all know that money is an illusion, especially cash. Cash is trash, you know what I'm saying? So everything, especially when it comes to the digital, right? I was able to go on another person's terminal, which was a girl that was working there, and they asked me about her, and I was like, nah, she ain't got nothing to do with it. But me trying to be slick and all that, I did it on her terminal, put $3,000 into my account, 3000, into boom, I had $3,000 in my account. That's how easy it is to really get a whole bunch of fucking money. You could just type the shit up into your account and it's there. So my stupid ass pulls out a bank check because there was a dealership like right across the street. So I was gonna buy me a car with the money I just inputted into my account without physically putting cash into the account, right? This is some crazy shit, yo. But anyway, so I goes to buy the car, and I hands them the bank check as a deposit for the car so I could go purchase the car, not realizing that this bank check has to come back to the bank for the money. My God, I was naive to that particular type process of how checks actually work. How when you go to a check cashing place or you go to a bank, what the process is for that check. When you cash a check, they cash you the check. Of course, they're going to verify the check. They give you your money, but then now they have to take all of these checks and deposit this check. So those checks go to the Federal Reserve, verify that the money is actually in this account so they could take it and put it in that account. And that's what I was doing. I didn't understand that particular process, and that shit got me jammed up. So one morning, July 5th, 1996, I swear I remember this shit like it was yesterday. They come knocking on my door, 9 in the morning, 2 detectives, and from that point on, they drove my ass the longest way to Yonkers from the Bronx. And from the Bronx to Yonkers is like a 10, not even 15-minute ride. But the way they took was just the longest way till they got me to the Central Bookings to book my ass for fucking taking, they said like $25,000 worth of money from a bank. And I actually had to pay that shit back. That shit took me like, that shit took me like 12 years to pay back, because they wanted me to pay back like $450 per month. But this is the thing, right? If you have a grand larceny felony on your record, how the fuck am I supposed to find a job to pay back $450 in New York City when the rent for one bedroom is $1,200? That's already $16. I wasn't making no money like that to be trying to pay that shit. So every year they will pile up and I will get violated. And when you you violate your probation, same as parole, when you violate it, they come and arrest your ass. So every year for like 10 years, I was just getting bagged 5:30, 6 in the morning. They just kept bagging me until I was able to, find a job. It took me 8 years really to find actually a stable job that actually turned my life around, because the story was, with me trying to find jobs, I would not say something or not tell them what my background was in the beginning. They do a background check, I get fired in a week. I will tell them what my background is, I don't even get the job, so I couldn't figure out what to do. But 8 years had passed, and I had went and got this job from Simplex Grinnell, and he told me, because I told him my story was, I didn't tell him I took money from a bank. I shoplifted at Macy's. I just had a kid. I was forced to, get clothes and Pampers and things of that nature. So that was the story that I gave him, instead of telling him I just took a bunch of money orders from the bank and then I just deposited some fake money in my account to go try to buy a car. I ain't tell him none of that. That right there would have probably not changed my life. So I told him I was just shoplifting. He was like, yo, no problem, man. Could you get me a disposition letter? Heard you. Next day, I was up at Yonkers, $25. Let me get that disposition, because my case was closed at that time, because it was almost 10 years. So at that time, I gave him that disposition letter. Then from that day forward, man, that shit changed my life. It didn't work for me until after I paid off that last $4,000 in restitution. It was like $4,250 was my taxes at that time, because when you file taxes, you get a little big check. I remember my check was $4,250, and I had to give him $4,000. So I had $250. That was the happiest $4,000 I was willing to give up in my life. You should have seen me walking in that courtroom with that money order, 4 money orders of $1,000, money orders, right? 4 money orders of $1,000 a piece. Like, I'm get off me probation, man. Get the fuck up out of here. I ain't trying to be on this shit no more. Bang, here you go. And from there, my life has changed, man. I became a owner of a security company, fire alarm and security. I'm doing pretty well now. Got, cars, kids, technicians, anything you could think of, man. So now I'm trying to just give people the game as I know it, to let them know that as long as you're living, you always have the ability to make another choice, to make a better decision and whatnot. So with that being said, yeah, I fucked up, took some money from a bank, cost me 10 years of my life because I couldn't find a job. It was the worst time of my life. It was very, very hard for a nigga out here in these streets and whatnot. So I had to eat in the streets. I had to eat the only way I knew how to eat. Rather be cutting hair, scalping tickets, pickpocketing, whatever it is I had to do. And I was out there doing it and whatnot till I was able to get on a different path by somebody giving me a chance and whatnot. So that was how I took the money from the bank, money orders. But I paid them niggas back, man. And y'all don't go out there doing that dumb shit, man. Just try to figure out a different way, man. It's many different ways to get money, especially today, man. You could just, YouTube is always hiring, man. Social media is always hiring, man. Show somebody something, you can get out there and get yourself some money, man. Just figure out how to create funnels, man. All right, so I'm Taurus the General, man. And that's how I rob the motherfucking bank, bitch.